If you've been watching us for a few years, you probably know that we like to cut the current year in half and look ahead. So for the second half of 2020, these are the games we're looking forward to the most. Now, also just a quick disclaimer, certain games you're not going to see on this list, stuff like Dying Light 2 has been pushed. The new Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, we don't know if it's going to hit 2020. Elder Scrolls 6, obviously, Gods and Monsters, stuff like that. Far Cry 6 is 2021. So with your expectations managed, we got 20 games to get through, so let's get started with Crusader Kings 3. If you're unfamiliar with this franchise, it's role-playing grand strategy. These style of games are broader scale. Wars and battles are long and massive, and if you like traditional tabletop games, these types of games might be your jam. This is from Paradox Development Studio, who has a good reputation, and in Crusader Kings 3, you use war, diplomacy, marriage, politics to either build a humble kingdom or a massive empire, and you can practically rule half the globe. It sounds like it can get really insane, and apparently they're working on making this one a little less overwhelming and more accessible by having a learn-as-you-go system. I just really hope this does a good job of easing new players into this type of thing, but without losing that hardcore vibe, which was the whole reason why people came to these games in the first place. We'll know for sure when this PC game drops in September. Now, next at number 19, we have Star Wars Squadrons, a pretty ambitious flight simulator game. Basically, something that the Star Wars series has always been primed for if you've been playing these games for years. No, this isn't really like a rip of the flight mode in Battlefront 2. This is a first-person cockpit-based experience. There's going to be a strong multiplayer focus, but apparently there is going to be a small campaign where you get to play as both sides of the conflict. But something that's really exciting for a lot of fans is that not only is it pretty cutting edge with stuff like crossplay enabled, but also the fact that the game is getting full VR support, so you can play single player and multiplayer and live out your full Star Wars X-Wing or TIE Fighter fantasy. I know I'm in that camp. I wonder if you guys are. Still, there's some things, of course, it's an EA game. They've said that there is not going to be any real microtransactions, no pay-to-win stuff. Everything in the game you earn through playing. That sounds good. We're gonna have to believe it, and when we see it, hopefully we can just get back to the glory days of good Star Wars spaceship dogfighting games. I guess all our questions will be answered when it's released on all the consoles and PC on October 2nd. Now over at number 18, we have Yakuza, Like a Dragon. The Yakuza series we've been hyping up for years, man. Now that it's really made itself pretty big in North America, it's on a lot of platforms now. It's something you should absolutely check out. Yakuza Like a Dragon kind of takes the series and brings it to a new era. There are going to be significant changes. It's based around a new character, but the vibe is still there, the appeal is still there, and here at GameRanks, we're incredibly excited for it. Hopefully the new combat system works out well. It seems a little bit more turn-based and less brawler style, but still, like I said, the flair is still there, the excitement is still there. We're hoping that everything else just comes into place. Early impressions from people throughout the world have been pretty good, but we'll know for sure when we get our hands on it holiday 2020. Now, next at number 17, we have Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2. Now, full disclosure, we're not totally sure if this one's gonna actually come out in 2020, if it's gonna make it. They didn't say it was an Xbox Series X launch game, but it was one of the first Xbox Series X games announced and really shown off. So we're hoping that we'll still be able to get our hands on this before the year wraps up, especially because the original Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice was an incredible game that we've tried to put in front of as many people as possible. It took a little bit for it to catch on with mainstream audiences, but it is just like a really cool, cerebral, kind of horror-esque experience. Judging by the trailer and the glimpses we've got of the next game, it seems like that trend is continuing, and we're pretty excited. Now next at number 16, we have Outriders, a 1 to 3 player co-op RPG shooter in a sci-fi world, which, yes, stop me if you've heard that. I already started to get bored reading that description, but I'm holding on to hope because it's made by People Can Fly. People Can Fly is the team behind like one of the most creative and inventive shooters we've seen in a while, Bulletstorm. So I would say that they know how to make a shooter feel fresh and interesting and quirky, so I'm really hoping this translates over to Outriders. It seems very much like it is kind of chasing a lot of the trends going on right now. Online multiplayer, probably some games as a service type elements. But you do have larger than life abilities in this game other than just shooting, and that seems like it could be pretty interesting and make for some pretty dynamic gameplay. Still, we're just gonna have to wait and see with this one. It is releasing on all the major consoles and PC, hopefully holiday 2020. Now over at number 15, we have Godfall, another kind of online focused, maybe to some people a little bit generic action shooter online game thing. Still, I will say Godfall has some really cool character designs, and generally everything here looks incredibly over the top. Some of the melee action does look really exciting, especially like once you look past the surface level. If you don't judge this game by its cover, maybe it's gonna have some cool things going on. Also, it was pretty forthcoming as being like one of the first confirmed PlayStation 5 games. It's also going to be releasing on PC, but yeah, so far it does look pretty in the graphics department and hopefully just pretty exciting. Right now, Godfall is also listed as Holiday 2020. Now over at number 14, we have Dirt 5. Dirt 5, believe it or not, is actually the 14th game in this series that has evolved so far from when it was originally Colin McRae Rally. And generally, I hate to sit in the passenger seat with this one, but they've been doing good things with the Dirt series, from Dirt as the mainline games to Dirt Rally. I just feel like they've got these games figured out by now, and I'm really excited to see what they can add this time around to just make it more interesting. Some of the locations are pretty exciting, listed so far as Arizona, Brazil, China, Italy, New York City, and Norway. Not only that, there is going to be a dynamic weather system and seasons for all of the areas that you're racing through, which, as we've seen in other modern racing games, can actually shake things up quite a bit and just be really cool to experience. For something like this, especially an off-road racing game, Dirt 5 could really kick ass, and thankfully we have a pretty solid release date for all the major consoles of October 9th, 2020. Now over at number 13, of course, we got to acknowledge it. We always do with videos like this. The inevitable next Call of Duty game. There is apparently going to be a Call of Duty game releasing Holiday 2020, but with the epidemic and things going on, we haven't heard things. Pretty much everything's been pretty radio silent. It also seems like a lot of people have been really occupied with Warzone. It's been doing pretty well, and it is pretty fun. But if Activision does decide to churn out one this year, there have been rumors circulating that it is another Black Ops game, maybe a bit of a reboot for the Black Ops series. We don't know for sure. We're kind of just spitballing here, but for the sake of being complete, we did want to include it here. Now over at number 12, we have Paper Mario: The Origami King. This is releasing for Nintendo Switch fairly soon if you're watching this video close to its launch. So far, Paper Mario seems to be pretty fun, although changing some Paper Mario series staples. The inclusion of origami into the world just seems creative, and it could really make sense. And honestly, hopefully, for some people with the success of Nintendo Switch, Paper Mario and the Origami King will expose new people to the Paper Mario series, which has always been, I think, criminally underrated. But anyway, people will get their hands on that on Nintendo Switch July 17th. Now over at number 11, we have Wasteland 3. The legendary post-apocalyptic strategy RPG is returning with like a winter twist following the success of Wasteland 2 in 2014. The series from way back in the 80s has been brought back to the forefront, and now Wasteland 3 looks pretty sweet. It's bringing a lot of the stuff that was established in 2 with the same team who had that attention to detail from the old games. Now you're in snowy Colorado mountains where you set up a new base of operations and you train new survivors. Squad-based tactical combat returns, of course, with rangers that you can customize and build and have all these different perks and abilities. And of course, there's tons and tons of story with lots of freedom in all of your choices and decision-making and exploration, all of that to chew through. And you can play solo or co-op, which is also pretty sweet. This baby's finally dropping, as long as nothing changes, August 28th, 2020. Now over at number 10, we have Watch Dogs Legion, which seems like after Watch Dogs 2, where they started to make things a little crazy, with Legion, they're just going batshit insane. This one takes place in a near future London, clamped down by tons of surveillance everywhere, and you basically play as the ordinary citizen who rises up to fight back. The game has a pretty interesting system where you can basically recruit any NPC out in the world on the street and build them up to become an everyday hero, and basically build your own whole team of kind of hackers, assassins, brutes, in just like a wildly weird and ambitious concept for a game, and especially like a wild little departure for Watch Dogs, but at the same time it still kind of makes sense, you know what I mean? When this game was first announced and first shown off, I thought it was a little rocky, but after the Ubisoft thing from a couple days ago where they went deep into it and we got some previews, I'm actually pretty excited for this one. It does actually seem like it's meeting its ambitions in a lot of ways, and at the end of the day, it's an open world action crime steel car game that's trying to be creative. And any game that tries to flip that formula on its head, I'm gonna at least give a shot. Watch Dogs Legion finally has a release date of October 29th for all the major consoles and PC. Now next at number 9, we have Tell Me Why, which is a story-based game from Don't Nod Entertainment, the folks behind, of course, Life is Strange. And this seems very much to be a game. If you are a Life is Strange fan, you probably should be pretty excited for this because it's them them doing their thing. They figured out what they're good at. This is going to be a 3-episode game released across 2020, apparently exclusive for Xbox and Windows. The game apparently focuses on 2 twins who come back to their childhood home to kind of like focus on some past traumas. Apparently they have different recollections of what happened in their past, and it's up to you to kind of piece them together and figure it out. From a storytelling perspective, that does sound really interesting. I hope that this does kind of shake the mold here. Also, I do commend them for doing only 3 episodes because sometimes episodic games have a tendency to lose the thread. Tell Me Why could be pretty interesting, especially if you're fans of games like this. And we'll be playing probably at least the first episode this year. Now, next over at number 8, we have Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is very much an Assassin's Creed game if you've been playing Assassin's Creed Origins or Assassin's Creed Odyssey. This time, it's with Vikings. But interestingly enough, you start out in Norway and you journey over to England in an attempt to take over and claim new land. And the game is centered around you building up a village inhabiting the English countryside. And apparently, this village is very much like a core part of the game's progression and the decisions you make. And I'm really curious to see how that builds up because I loved building up the villa and stuff like that in the old Assassin's Creed games because everything else here, to me, seems like more Assassin's Creed. They are bringing back social stealth, which I'm very happy about, and some of the environments look absolutely gorgeous, but with the combat and just some of the things, I'm glad there's more weapon variety, but overall, it seems very much like, hey, if you like the last 2 Assassin's Creed games, you're getting more of that. Which is totally fine for some fans. For older fans like me, from the very beginning, I'm hoping that after this one, there's a refresh again on the gameplay. I enjoy these new Assassin's Creed games, not as much as the old ones, but I still do. And the Viking thing seems really interesting, especially because you can hop on a boat at any time. That's always fun in these games. There's going to be character customization. You play as a male or a female and build them up and make them badass, along with your village and your crew. And I'm just excited to see how this one plays out. To be honest, I play every single Assassin's Creed, so let's do it. This one's dropping on the major consoles and PC November 17th. Now, next at number 7, I can't believe I'm saying this, but we have Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time. Yes, they're making another straight-up Crash Bandicoot game with it called 4. It's essentially picking up after the Naughty Dog games with Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped. At least that's what I'm assuming from the title. Pretty quirky. It seems like they're really shaking up the formula though here with some masks that give you different abilities, larger environments, and generally still to this day I'm just a bit skeptical of Activision Crash for 2 reasons. Obviously, people have their gripes with Activision as a company and their monetization practices, of course, but I also feel like Activision didn't get the Crash vibe as good as Naughty Dog did back when they made the original games. Still, I thought the Insane Trilogy collection was like a great remake, so I'm really hoping that this just continues to feel like that. Still, it's just like a big budget, over the top platformer, and we don't get enough platformers still to this day, so we're gonna be jumping on this one when it releases on the consoles October 2nd, 2020. Now, over at number 6, we have Flight Simulator. Microsoft's Flight Simulator is getting a big new game. It's releasing August 18th of this year, and holy heck does it look incredible and massive and comprehensive. Using real-world scans and map data, you're able to fly basically anywhere with all sorts of real-time day, night, and weather effects going on. The game looks like an absolute graphics card killer, of course, but they're also making this one a little bit more accessible, of course. Difficult to master, but fun to jump into and experience for yourself. PC gamers have been playing the Flight Simulator games and all of their updates for years and years, and this has existed for so long as a staple for good reason. But I'm really just excited to see like the next generation, the new platform of Flight Simulator and what it's going to be for the next few years. Like I said earlier, it's going to be releasing on August 18th, but it's worth noting that this is just releasing for PC right now, so PC fans get excited. Now over at number 5, we have Marvel's Avengers, which yes, this game is still a thing. It went quiet for a minute, but now we've got tons of details about it. And now that they really explain what the game is, I get it, and it does seem like it could be exciting. It's a little dicey, it could still be rough, but there's a good, exciting focus on replayable missions, playing with friends, and just some good melee action with all of your favorite Marvel characters. Not only that, MODOK is one of the main villains, which is incredibly exciting for a weird nerd like me. You're also going to be able to collect loot and it's different colors, and you're going to be able to upgrade your characters and give them different like perks and abilities with this loot, which is very much a video gamey thing that we've seen a lot of, but I'm curious to see if Square Enix can give it a real fun Avengers spin. Because honestly, still from what we've seen of the combat and stuff, I like what I see. Running and jumping and smashing dudes as the Hulk, throwing your hammer as Thor looks pretty cool, using your crazy fists as Kamala Khan, not to mention other characters that they're probably going to add later on. I just like seeing new interpretations of my favorite Marvel characters, so I'm in, while still cautiously optimistic, of course. This is releasing on the major consoles and PC September 4th. Now, down to number 4, if we're talking about superheroes, we gotta mention Spider-Man Miles Morales, which is a standalone game focusing completely around Miles Morales, who of course was completely and pretty excellently set up in Spider-Man PS4. This one looks like it's once again in New York City, but of course with big shiny PlayStation 5 graphics and a bit more of a wintertime setting. Of course, playing as Miles Morales, you have access to a variety of more exciting powers than just your standard Spider-Man game, which could really shake things up. I'm kind of two minds here. I wanted a game and a story based around Peter training Miles because that could be really fun to play, but I'm also very happy that Miles is getting the focus here with his own entire game. I love Spider-Man. I love swinging through New York City. I'm a sucker for these things. Thankfully, this is releasing on PS5 this holiday season. Now, down to number 3, we have Ghosts of Tsushima. The PlayStation 4 exclusive is finally dropping very soon if you're watching this video when it goes up, July 17th. This is an open world samurai exploration adventure game with focus on combat and stealth and high quality storytelling from at least what we've seen, and just general vibe and atmosphere. And most importantly, at least for me as a gaming fan, it's from Sucker Punch, the folks behind the infamous games, which I found to be absolutely downright incredible. So this is something very different for them, but I'm curious to see what Sucker Punch can do to make this thing exciting, because there's a lot of games out there with open worlds and RPG elements, and you hop on a horse and you go exploring and you kill a dude with a sword. But this one, of course, has some really cool and interesting Japanese influence, and presumably something that we can't see through just streamed videos of it, something of like that Sucker Punch flair, the reason why we fell in love with the infamous games. I'm looking forward to falling in love with Ghosts of Tsushima. Now down to number 2, we have Halo Infinite, which might be one of the most important Halo games to release in a very, very long time, maybe since like Halo 1 or 2. This is probably going to be the flagship game for Xbox's next Xbox console. And that means the pressure's on, man. This has to be a really, really good Halo game. Halo Infinite has in many ways alluded to the fact that it is kind of going back to basics and kind of focusing on the things we love as a Halo game, while also just being a massive and big new experience. Hey, Master Chief is back. We know there's a Warthog. The graphics look incredible from what we've seen, at least. There's going to be big, massive environments. I think pretty soon, if you're watching this video, we're probably gonna get a lot more info on this one, but I gotta say, pretty excited. We're really hoping this one lives up to expectations. But down to number 1, if we're talking about games living up to expectations, holy hell, of course we have Cyberpunk 2077. What more is there to say about this game other than that it is the next big ambitious RPG from CD Projekt Red, the makers of The Witcher 3, one of the best RPGs of all time. Now they're making a game in a cool futuristic cyberpunk setting with fancy shiny futuristic cars, big soaring skyscrapers, seedy criminal underground elements, hackers, killers, criminals, everything, you name it. It seems like this game's gonna have it, with a big focus on first-person combat and building up your character through RPG systems. It kind of seems like Deus Ex on like insane overload, and even that I think is still not doing the game justice and the ambitions here. We're really looking forward to getting our hands on that one. Not much else to say about it, but it's releasing on the consoles and PC November 19th, 2020. Now, of course, before we go, we got some bonus games we wanted to shout out real quick. Destroy All Humans, the remake, is dropping July 28th. Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning, the remake of that, is launching September 8th. Then one more remake, Mafia Definitive Edition, is kind of a rebuild from the ground up of the original Mafia classic. That's September 25th of this year. And then there's also Deathloop, that Arcane Bethesda game, which seems like it's like a PS5 timed exclusive and also on PC, and that is apparently still slated for holiday 2020.
Yep, we're getting a new Tony Hawk game. What year is it? Well, we're sort of getting a new one. It's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 Remastered. It is going to be a traditional Tony Hawk game, but you will be able to play the classic modes online as well.
But those are all the games we could cram in here. These are the things that we're really looking forward to for the remainder of 2020. Now, we provided a top 20 list here. We would love to hear your own top list down in the comments. Maybe you got a top 5, maybe you got a top 10, maybe you're crazy. Let us know what games you're looking forward to jumping on this year down in the comments. And if you learned about a game or two from us, clicking the like button does help us out. We really appreciate that. And if you're new, consider subscribing, maybe hitting that notification bell, because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.